For those that are not in the know, firstly, what is Detox?
It's pretty much a grey box testing framework which we can use on apps to pretty much run end-to-end testing everything from simple login and registration processes by clicking through the app on multiple different devices, ensuring that critical business functionality effectively works before we actually push it up into a production space. It helps us with developer confidence and also stakeholder confidence to ensure that we are actually pushing out functionality and not causing any regression within an application. That's primarily the use of why we would do Detox on the apps.
And is it something you use once off, or is it like something you employ ongoing in your SLDC sort of cycle of development?
It'll be ongoing effectively. So it'll be integrated into the SDL development lifecycle. Most projects effectively change or mutate to across the years. So as you are making new fixes, as you are adding new functionality, all those tests that you are writing will pretty much be updated.
How does the Detox testing work exactly for mobile? Do you have like Android and iPhone, etc., or applications sitting in front of you that act on behalf of these devices, and then you test through all the functionalities? How does it work exactly?
So how it works effectively is you start up emulators, programmatically start up an Android emulator with a specific device. So if it was maybe a Pixel device, iOS the same, you would effectively start up each instance of that device. Detox effectively works as a robot. So it'll start up the device and you'll pretty much log in with that robot or bot, and it will pretty much click through both of those devices for you. We normally integrate with development, so during the development cycle, and then also pretty much implement it in CI/CD. So just to 100% make sure that those bots actually run through the application, execute every single scenario, and if anything fails, it fails in the pipeline, so you won't even be able to get into a production scenario or into a test flight scenario about those tests passing. Those tests are written in the JavaScript using some sort of page object model to make it just easier for testers to understand and maybe onboard some people in the future which is less tech savvy to work on the tests. And it lives as its own repository inside a project but doesn't touch any of the project code. So you can effectively get a QA team to learn page object model and write their own tests as they're going along.
And how does it differ from other forms of testing in layman's terms?
The nice thing about Detox is, as I mentioned, it tests apps actually as an app would be tested like with a native device. So a lot of these other testing frameworks that you have, you're testing mobile functionality via a browser, but there's no nice software really. There are a few, but there aren't really a lot that can test an app natively as well as Detox does. So you're getting testing with the actual performance of a device with all the operating system requirements that is specified. That's the benefit of doing that. And as well, it's grey box testing. It's across the board just a good solution to basically have some sort of hybrid testing scenario where you're just clicking through things. Don't have to go as in depth and mock things out as you would like maybe with a standard unit test, which leads to its own problems. Obviously there are a bit of disadvantages in that, maybe performance wise it might take a little bit longer. You can't do everything as an E2E test because you'll pretty much spike the performance of everything and it'll just take long and it's unnecessary. So the crucial thing about this is to test most of the main user flows with this. And you can obviously integrate it with any other testing, but as unit testing or integration testing, but for the most part, we can get away with E2E tests for a long time to ensure that the critical business functionality works.
And what do you think the future trends of detoxing in development in general looks like? Have you seen any particular trends?
Detox has been around for a while, but end-to-end testing and just test-driven development in general it's really a big thing that's picking up. I can see it as a trend across the industry, and it's mainly to ensure quality. I mean, the amount of regression that we're sitting with, on some of these complicated apps, that's the reason why we do these specific testing. So it's not a new subject. Obviously for us it's a little bit new, but just with the way our business is, but it has a definitive impact, and having worked with it across the past year, I can definitely see the benefits. If you're thinking about how much hours we may be burning just having to fix this thing, or having to go through 3 separate bug sprints to try and figure out in a UAT testing phase, you can eliminate that immediately. It pretty much balances itself out. However, you're not burning through the money as fast, which means, you can innovate a little bit easier. You can finish a sprint faster, get onto other work. So lots of benefits, but I wouldn't say it's a new trend in things. But what makes Detox powerful is just the fact that, the native testing side of it is something that you don't really have. I mean, you can use Flutter, or you can use any of these other apps, and I'm sure they have testing frameworks, but specifically tailored to React Native, it works well with what we are doing as a mobile team.
Just to clarify as well, because the question I had is the Detox is primarily or only linked to React Native framework, so specifically created for React Native built apps.
Yeah, and you can even pile on that, use something like Detox Instruments, which is pretty much, you can do performance testing and some stress testing and see more insights into how an app is actually performing on certain screens. So there's some other things that we can do with regards to performance testing, just integrating with Detox Instruments with the Detox app. So they work well hand in hand together.
Just a little bit on gray box testing. I just wanted to clarify what that is compared to something like a black box test. So black box testing framework is basically has no knowledge of what's happening in the app. It can operate the device. It can click on things in the device as it sees them, but it doesn't have knowledge about what's happening inside the app at all. So it doesn't know what network requests have. It doesn't know what elements have been created. It doesn't know anything about the app itself. Whereas the gray box testing framework like Detox eliminates a lot of So the problem with the black box testing is that those tests can be really flaky. Especially if a network request takes slightly too long, or something happens that's slightly unexpected, they'll fail half the time, and then you have to go check why has it failed. With a gray box test, it eliminates a lot of that flakiness by having a lot of more knowledge around, because you deploy a version of your app that has Detox integrated with it, so it can monitor everything that the app's doing simultaneously with being able to click things, like a black box testing framework would be able to do. Because it can monitor all that stuff, you can have much more deterministic test results and a lot less flakiness in your test run.
And that just comes with the knowledge of whoever's implementing Detox. You have knowledge of the app, so it makes it a lot easier. And it gives you also mitigation clauses, which you could do, which you cannot do in a black box testing environment, like intercepting requests. So it gives you that flexibility to make sure that the tests are accurate, but also, like Simon says, it reduces test flakiness. So you'll have passing pipeline runs most of the time, which is a very nice feature, because that is a problem of testing in general, is flaky tests. So
one final question.
Oh, Nicky. Or is that question?
What would be like some tips that you have for someone who's wanting to go through a Detox testing for their mobile development? Apart from coming to us as a suggestion and as a tip, what would be the tip before you embark on the Detox journey? What should you consider?
Know the audience that you're testing with, because those are the types of questions that are important. You ideally want to make sure that what you are testing, or the environments that you are testing on, are replicated correctly. That's the first tip I would effectively give.
The most important thing is that you're covering those critical journeys. Don't try and test too much. Don't try and test absolutely everything your app is doing. Your tests are going to take hours, and that'll just slow down development more than anything. Test the critical functionality, not everything.
It's still a very good solution in terms of just develop a client's confidence. So, increasing that relationship and making sure that both parties are very confident in the solution that's going to be pushed out, or a rollout that happens, is something that's I feel very important in today's industry.